Hi everyone, I'm Karen from Sew and Save. Welcome to Creating with Karen. I'm here today at the Ponderosa and it's a Saturday, April 2nd, and it's snowing out. I know, we're spring, we're waiting, but it's not here today. So today was a great day to just stay in my sewing room and work on our Ukrainian project. This is the third in a series of videos that we've done on projects that we have named the Ukrainian project because the proceeds, 25% of the proceeds of these projects go to help Ukrainian refugees and people who are in Ukraine. And we really wanted to help them, and we have found a great Ukrainian designer named Nadia. And in our first videos, we talked about her and her family, and we have been able to sell lots of her patterns or lots of her kits and patterns and help her and her family out as well. So thank you so much for your support. And we have two more projects that are also part of our Ukrainian project, and 25% of the proceeds for the fabric from these kits go to Ukrainian refugees, and the cost of the pattern goes directly to Nadia and her family. So thank you for helping us out, and I hope you like these projects and want to work on these as well. So we have the first project that we had for the Ukrainian project was a sunflower in the window kit, and that has been very successful, and we want to thank everybody for purchasing one of those. It's a sunflower, which is the Ukrainian national flower that you can hang on your door or in a window to show your support for the Ukrainian people. The next project that we did was a circle topper like this with cute carrots like for Easter and spring. So really super cute. The second project that I made of Nadia's was the butterflies, and now I just finished the heart today. So we're going to talk about how to put those together and give you some tips on making your project perfect because they are so pretty. So when you purchase these, you can purchase them singly, or you can purchase a 2-pack, and we have what we're calling a mix and match pack. So there's 3 of these circle projects so far. There's actually going to be a 4th, so I'm going to be working on that this week. So there'll be 3 or 4 of these circle round table toppers, and you could mix and match and save a little money when you do that and still help the Ukrainian people. And if you order those online, you can, in the comment section of the website, when you buy the mix and match package, just say I want a carrot and a butterfly, or I want a heart and a butterfly, and just let us know which 2 kits you want, and we will get those out to you. So let's get started. It's a fun project. It takes you can get, yes, you can get it done in an afternoon. Okay, maybe a day at the most, but you can get it done. And it is so much fun, and they just are so pretty. So let's get started. The first step in doing this project is going to be, yes, the quilting. You're like, what? Quilting first? Yes, quilting first on this project. The really cool thing that I like about Nadia's projects is that she didn't do it for the carrot, but for the butterflies and for the hearts that we're working on today, she has a pretty quilted design in the center. And a lot of times we see a lot of quilting designs on the patterns that we make, and we look at them and go, that's really cool. I wish I could do that. How did she do that? Where did she get that design? I can't do that. But on her patterns, she actually includes the little quilting design in the pattern. I know, who does that? So this is the little design, the little flower that is in the center of the butterflies. In the center of our hearts is going to be this really pretty wreath. So I'm going to show you how to do that. The first thing you're going to do is take your backing and fuse it to your batting. And I used my bone ash and just fused my backing right to my batting. I'm going to set that aside for a few minutes because now I'm going to transfer this little design onto my background. So I did not fuse this fabric, onto my batting because I need to transfer my design onto this fabric first. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my little light board. I'm going to kind of center my design in the middle of my light board and then just use some of my embroidery tape. Don't use Scotch tape. That will stick forever and you'll be just pulling tape off of your light board and off of your pattern forever. So I just use a little embroidery tape and tape that down onto my light board so it doesn't move while I'm trying to do my pattern, trace my pattern onto my fabric. Then I'm going to take my fabric piece, and this is the full fat quarter. I haven't cut it down or anything. And I'm going to kind of fold it in half, put a little finger press in the center going this way, and then fold it. So you're going to fold it horizontally and vertically and find the center of your fabric. Put a little finger press in here, just like that, and lay that on top. Line up your center marks, your center folds, right down the center of your little, not embroidery design, but quilting design. So it's really nice that she puts a little dotted line showing you right where the center of that design is. So I love that. Makes it so easy. So I'm just going to kind of move my fabric around. Then I'm going to use one of my Frixion pens. So I'm not going to end up ironing this down on top of my other batting later on, and I'm not going to fuse it down with bone ash. I'm just going to kind of lay it on top and start in the center and start quilting out. So I'm going to use a Frixion pen because the Frixion pens iron away. You could use an air erase pen. We have some really nice air erase pens at the store. The one that we carry says it erases in 1 to 10 days. I found that ours erases in like an hour. So that's okay, but just know how long it takes for your air erase pen to go away, because you don't want to do this, come back tomorrow and find out it's gone. I'm going to do mine with Frixion pen. Yes, I got new Frixion pens. I'm very excited. I was talking to the girls about the fact that my Frixion pen didn't work in my last video and that I needed a new Frixion pen, and they were reminding me that we had these really, really nice fine line Frixion pens, and that I had sold them on this probably during the pandemic, and then I sold out, couldn't get them anymore, and then guess what? I forgot about them because I had a bunch and I've used them all up, and I'm down, and I was using a different one, and they said this is still our favorite out of all the Frixion pens that we have at the store. We probably have 4 or 5 different types. This is their favorite. So these are sold individually. I have them individually in a variety of colors, but you can buy a nice, like a variety pack of different colors. And then you can buy them in just, so I'm going to use my black Frixion pen, and I am going, and I placed it on my light board. I can see my design really nice. And I am just going to trace the design that was printed on the paper. So there's little itty bitty circles going around in here. I don't think I'm going to do those. You certainly can. You can see that this is moving a little bit. Sometimes I'll take and I'll use my embroidery tape and I'll just tape it down onto my table, or if it's small enough, I'll tape the fabric right down onto the in the light board and just keep tracing. And I just trace around everywhere I'm going to stitch. Pretty simple. You can do this, right? So I've traced this onto the front of my background of my table topper. You can stitch this one of 2 ways. You can drop your feed dogs and do it free motion, freehand. I'm going to leave my feed dogs up and stitch. I'm going to drop my stitch length down to about a 2. I don't want it to be too small because I don't want my to have itty bitty teeny weeny stitches, but I want you to be able to see a nice stitch. But if your stitch length is a little bit shorter, it makes a nicer curve as you stitch around. So I'm going to go and stitch this out, and then we'll come back and I'll show you your next step. All right, I've started to stitch some of my little swirls here, and I thought we could give you a close-up as to how I did that. So I will start stitching kind of a little bit farther out. You can see where my stitching from my last one is way back over here. I will start my next little swirl here. I'm going to start that one like right where I ended this one. That way I'm stitching over the top of this last line of stitching, couple 2-3 stitches. That will lock that into place. And I'm going to come up and around, and then I'm going to kind of stop. But what I'm going to do is maybe stitch over this crossover point, maybe one little itty bitty stitch, so that when I come back around with the next line of stitching, it will overlap that last line of stitching and hold that stitch in place so that doesn't pop out as well. So here we go. So I'm going to come way over here because this is where my next point is going to end up. So I'm actually going to start way down here, come up over the top of that stitching and around, so that when I start this one, then I'm going to start way over here. And that's making my circle as I go around as well. So I didn't like stitch my whole circle and then come through and do these. This is overlapping some of my stitches so that it locks it in place, and we're good to go. Alrighty. This is so much fun. You're just going to take your time, go really slow. I popped my stitch length down to 2 from 2.4, and it's still making a nice stitch and not too close together. And I'm just going very slowly, and at a certain point I just can see that I overlapped my stitch from my other little fleur-de-lis or little paisley, and I am just stitching right on my line. And now I'm kind of went over the top of the next little one, just one stitch, so that now when I come over this, I don't know if you can see it, but when I come over this, I'm going to come over and stitch like right there, so I lock that little stitch in. I'm going to start way down here on my next one, come up and over. That out of the way, and here we go. And I'm just going very slowly. Again, you could do this free motion. I think for me, this turns out better if I'm stitching with my presser foot or my feed dogs up, because I'm going to get kind of a nicer stitch length. My stitch length will be more even, because I'm just not that good. Hate to tell you, but I'm just not that good. And I like my stitch lengths all nice and even. This is also a perfect spot for you to pull out some of your ruler work rulers. You know you have them, you bought them, you took a class. Have you used them? This is a great opportunity. So you have the center designed, quilted onto your background and all the way through your batting and your backing. Now you're ready to start to applique your hearts onto your project. The first thing you're going to do is find the center of your design. Now from that little inner circle that you have, you're going to measure in 2 inches because it's a 4-inch circle. So I found the center of my 4-inch circle and put a little X mark. So you can see X marks the spot right there. That's where I'm going to put my pin and my ruler for my quick trim and circle ruler. Now, right on this edge, there's little itty bitty holes, and those little holes go every 1/8 of an inch. So my circle is going to be 17.5 inches all around. So I need to cut 17.5 in half, and that gives me 8 3/4. So I'm going to count on these little itty bitty lines. I'm going to find my 3/4 inch line, or 3/4 inch hole, put my pin through the 3/4 inch hole and put that pin right through the center mark of my little quilted piece in the center of my table topper. Now I'm going to, once I've done that, I'm going to flip this around, and I'm going to count out 8 inches because I have 3/4 here, and then I need to move out 8 inches. When I draw my circle, I will have a 17.5 inch circle. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Take my new Frixion pen, which is actually going to make a mark, and make a beautiful circle going all the way around my table topper. All right, circle. Now to mark where I'm going, this is the outside of my table topper. Now I'm going to mark the circle where I'm going to line up my hearts. So I'm simply going to move in 2 inches and draw another line, and that is going to indicate where I am going to put my little hearts. I'm going to go around twice there. I can really see it. Pull that out. I have 2 beautiful circles, one at 17.5 and one 2 inches in. Then I'm going to take my little hearts. In your kit, you will get 4 different fabrics to make your hearts. You need, I cut more than what I needed. I cut 4 of each of the solid hearts, and I cut 5 of the little hearts with a hole in them, with the centers cut out. And then you're simply going to peel off your fusible web that you use to trace and to put onto the back of your hearts and lay your hearts out. It was kind of, I'm trying to think, it was one heart with the center cut out and then 2 solid hearts. And I've already pulled off all of my fusible web off of the back of these, and I'm just kind of going around, set one down, and then 2 solid hearts. And I'm going to go all the way around doing that, kind of switching them out so that no 2 fabrics are the same next to one another. I'm kind of just eyeballing these. You could measure in between if you like. That is entirely up to you. So you're going to lay these all out around in a circle that kind of stick together. And when you get that done, you're going to applique around each of those hearts. Now this time when I did my quilting, I decided not to do any stippling on this. So my design kind of comes out to here, and then my hearts are here and my end is here. So this is once you applique these down, this is fused, you're good to go. You're not going to, you don't have too much space there. So I'm just leaving this very clean and straight. So I'm just going to continue putting my hearts around it and rearrange them, applique them, and then we'll be right back together again. Well, I've been playing with this for a few minutes, and I've actually ended up drawing 3 circles inside of my outside circle to kind of get my hearts lined up the way I wanted them. So first I drew a circle 1 inch away, then 2 inches away, and I finally ended up with my circle at 1.5 inches away from the edge, because I wanted, if you look at her pattern, you'll see that she's got 2 solid hearts and then an empty heart. Empty heart, that kind of sounds sad. Open heart, I don't know. These hearts, and then she's got 2 solid hearts, one of these, 2, and then she's got 1 solid heart and then an open heart. Well, I wanted it to be symmetrical. I wanted 2 in between each, because I'm pretty symmetrical in an asymmetrical sort of way. So I wanted 2 hearts in between each one of those open ones. So at 1.5 inches from your outside edge, you can get all of your hearts put in and have 2 solid hearts and an open heart going all the way around. And I just kind of eyeballed these. Now I'm ready to press them on and applique around my hearts. So 1.5 inches in from your outside 17.5 inch line, and you'll be good to go. So I'm going to go applique, and we'll see you soon. I have fused all of my hearts around in a circle, and I'm ready to applique. The applique stitch that I'm using is a blanket stitch, and you can see it up here on my screen. And I've changed the default setting for that stitch to 2.5 and 2.5. I think it's usually 2.5 and 3 or 3.5. And I just made it a little bit smaller because my pieces are small. I'm going to start down here at the point of the heart, and that's going to be the easiest. Whenever I'm doing applique, I always start with the straight part, because that kind of gives me, kind of gets my feng shui going, kind of gets my groove on, and I can kind of get the rhythm of the stitch and the sewing machine. And then once I get to my turn, I'm going to move very slowly, and I turn the fabric, allowing the machine to pull the fabric through the machine. I'm going to stop here because I have to reposition and turn. When I do not turn, when the fabric or the needle is plunging into the heart, see where it just plunged in? Don't turn your fabric when it's going into the heart. Turn it when it's on the straight, like it is just now. Now it's going straight. If you turn it when the needle is plunging into the heart, you'll get a V. You know what I'm talking about. You'll get one of those little V marks. Your threads won't be right on top of one another, and you'll go, why is that doing that? Well, it's because you're turning your fabric when the needle is going into the heart. I turn on the straight, and I let the machine pull the fabric through. I am just turning and guiding it, watching my needle to make sure that the needle is going right next to that red applique heart fabric. Slowing down at the turn and remembering to turn when we're on the straight, not when it's plunging in. I'm using just my basic Aurifil thread that I use for piecing. It's a red. I think it's either, I think it's 40 weight. Yeah, it's the regular 40 weight. Makes a nice applique stitch. Now I can speed up because I'm going a little bit on that straight line. And that's a lot easier to applique, isn't it, than the curves. And this stitch is nice because it kind of, by going back and forth, it locks itself and kind of ties its own knot. And I'm all set and done. There you go. It's beautiful. One of the nice things about this machine, I'm just going to hit it, is that the foot goes up and down as I press on the pedal. That makes it a lot easier to turn and stitch at the same time because you don't have to keep moving your hands back and forth. Don't have a machine where the needle goes up and down? Come in and talk to Jim. Mother's Day is coming up and nothing says I love you more than a brand new sewing machine. So give this a try, keep stitching, and we'll see you in a little bit. I have all my hearts all appliqued onto my topper. It's so pretty. I love this. I have my little design quilted into the center. I didn't do any other quilting on this, so you can see how by appliquing these on that you don't have to do any other quilting on this other than that little design in the center. Now I'm ready to cut on my outside line and put my binding on. But first, you know, you have options. Some people don't like circles. Doing a bias binding freaks people out. People are afraid to cut the circle. Some people just don't like circles. They want it to be square. So this is my entire fat quarter that I have appliqued this on and made. So I could, at this point, take a big square ruler, kind of line it up. I would line it up maybe at 1.5 inches from the outside of your heart to the outside of your table topper and just square it off. And wouldn't it be cute when I made my hearts, I made 4 of each color. Well, I ended up only needing 3 of each color because I used 10 of the solid hearts and 5 of the open hearts. So you could, because I have some extra ones, kind of come along. I'm thinking this would come in and be squared about this size, but you could come in each of those corners and applique 1 more heart in each corner if you made it square and then bind it off. It would be really super cute. So you don't have to make circles on these. You can make squares. It's okay. You could bring it in and make it more of a rectangle so it would be more like a table runner than a table topper, squared off table topper. So be creative, do your own thing. I still like the circle, so I'm gonna cut my circle out and put my binding on, and then we'll come back and take a look at the finished product. See you soon. Now I have my 90% of the way done. I have all my my quilting done in the center, all my applique done. I've put my binding on, except for stitching it around the back, because I wanted to give you a little tip on how to do binding around the back. So I've pressed my binding to the back, and a lot of times what we'll do is we'll take little binder clips and get everything lined up and clip going all the way around with binder clips. and they hold and they work really well. But as you know, as soon as you take that binder clip off, your binding moves and you kind of have to hold it in place with one hand and hand stitch with the other hand. Let me show you a great trick for not having to fiddle around with all of that. We have these little glue pens. It's a Sew-Line glue pen. You can see it's blue. It doesn't stay blue. Once it dries clear. And what I do is I just take and I draw, and I don't know if you can pick that up on the video, but as I draw, it's making a little blue line right around my binding. And I'm just going to lay my binding in place. I line up the edge of my binding along my stitching line and continue to go all the way around. Ta-da! This will hold it right in place. It sticks it right to it and doesn't move while you're hand stitching the binding down. So fast, so easy. You'll have both hands when you're trying to stitch, and your bindings will look beautiful when they're done. So fun. These come in different colors. They go pink, they're blue. It comes in a little package with a refill, and then we also sell refills. There's 6 refills to a pack. Whoop, is that going to fall over? Hope not. Okay. So I'm just going to keep going around and tacking my binding down with the glue stick. It's nice. It's better than a glue stick because the glue sticks are usually a little bit bigger, wider, and so that you can't do something fine with them. And with it being like a pencil, it's a lot easier to control and to use. So love this Sew-Line glue stick pen. Alrighty. Now the other thing that I'm going to do on the back of my project is cut all of these threads. Now I've got all these threads sticking out from my quilting. I take my zip ripper, yes, my zip ripper, and I just come and I shave all of those threads off. Instead of going one by one trying to catch them all, I just give the back of my project a little shave. I use this on the back of my machine embroidery projects all the time because you know you get lots and lots of threads on the back of your machine embroidery projects. So my little zip ripper does a great job of quickly getting rid of all of those threads. Ta-da! Love it. So I'm going to keep doing that. If you haven't used a zip ripper before, the first time I used a zip ripper, I had sewn a border onto a quilt and looked at the quilt and realized that I had one of my blocks turned and I had to rip that border off. Well, you know how long that takes. So a zip ripper simply cuts your threads and you can zip right through ripping something out. So if you don't have one of these zip rippers, it's something that you definitely want in your Notion stash because it makes ripping just that easy. And no, it doesn't cut your fabric. You know how sometimes your seam ripper slips and ends up cutting your fabric? Even if you slip with this, it doesn't cut your fabric. A zip ripper, it's a beautiful thing. So finish up your project, hand sew your binding on or machine sew your binding on, whatever puts you in your happy place. And thank you so much again for supporting our cause and helping out the Nadia for one and the Ukrainian refugees. So in our on our website you'll see each of these projects individually, but there's also going to be a mix and match 2-pack. And so you can get a deal on buying 2. So you don't have to buy 2 hearts or 2 butterflies. You can buy a butterfly and a heart and you'll get the 2-pack price. So if you're ordering online, in the comment section of your cart, just put the 2 that you want. Say hearts and butterflies or hearts and carrots, whichever 2-pack you want, let us know and we'll get out your kits as quick as we possibly can. So take advantage of the 2-pack, and it's just a double help for the Ukrainian people who need it so much at this time. Until next time, and there will be a next time because I have one more of these little circle table toppers to do. So I'll be talking to you again next week, and have fun with this. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call, email us, and we're happy to help you at any time. See you soon. Bye.